Good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick exercise, a brief exercise. I'll be back in town next month, but this being the new year, I thought we might think about some things. And in this case, we're going to think about you as Dr. Best. So, this is just some food for thought, but I hope you appreciate this thought exercise. So, I know you're going through a lot of challenges. You're not getting enough sleep. What you've taken on is not for the faint of heart, right? So take a moment, think back, and think about who or what event, who inspired you to pay the price to be the best doctor that you can be. Because you've made a decision and your price is different for what you want to do than the things that others of us wanted to do. So, who inspired you? Just think back to that moment, perhaps. Think back to that person. Recall that feeling when you first decided, I'm going to be a doctor. Notice how it feels in your body. Maybe even jump forward a little bit to that moment when you realized that you were going to be taking the steps to make this dream come true. You've been accepted into medical school. Just allow those feelings to soak in. Think those thoughts that you had from back then. And if you have a moment later, perhaps send a thank you note to that person that inspired you. So, one of the most essential questions besides who am I is who am I at my best? How can I be that best version of myself? Who am I becoming? A long, long time ago, when I played superheroes as a kid, I thought the butterfly was the most unique creature. And I like the idea of the metamorphosis that a butterfly goes through. We are perfect at the stage that we are currently at, and we will evolve into that next stage. So gain some clarity. Who are you at your best? Who is Dr. Best for you? Take a minute, bring that to mind, get some clarity about it. What are you doing? Where are you doing it? Who are you doing it with? What feelings are you having? What things are you seeing? What kind of things are you hearing and feeling? Perhaps you're hearing that wonderful response from a patient. They really, truly appreciated you and how you were and how important you were in their healing journey. Perhaps you're looking at results and you're seeing all the cases that have been successful, that were under your care. What kinds of things do you notice when you are at your best? Sometimes we might not be at our best. Sometimes we might play small. So think about that best version of yourself and think about this idea of how you can bring that best version of yourself into being more often. It's not easy. We're challenged, right? Like superheroes, we've got to go out there and fight dragons. If superheroes didn't have big villains to fight, then probably wouldn't be worth watching the movie, right? If there wasn't some super being coming from outer space to destroy the whole world, what would the superheroes do? They'd just be sitting around, hanging out, playing video games, and drinking beer. But when that challenge comes, the superheroes rise to the occasion. So How can you bring that best version of yourself into being more often? We're always going to have obstacles, and it behooves us to explore the things we might do when faced with obstacles we know we're going to have. Sometimes there's a story, I think it goes something like this: my life in 5 chapters. I walk down the street, I fall in the hole. I walk down the street, I fall in the hole. Walking down the same street, I trip over, but I don't fall in the hole. I'm walking down the street and I jump over the hole. I walk down a new street, right? Sometimes the challenges that we face are those same challenges over and over again until we learn that lesson, until we transform into that new version of ourselves. Gandhi, among with others, had this way of saying it, and you can read with me: your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. Henry Ford had a different way to say it. His was a little bit shorter. Whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. Right? So think about that. Think about that process of what's going on. And here's another way to look at it. Our beliefs really drive our thoughts. Something happens in the world, we experience something, somebody cuts us off in traffic. Our beliefs about what happened, the meaning we make from that experience, drives our thoughts. I don't know why they cut me off, but I'm not very happy. That leads to feelings. I'm pissed off that they cut me off, right? So we have those feelings that are driven by those beliefs and thoughts. And that leads us to take actions. And the actions that you might take when someone cuts you off and you're feeling angry about it are different than the actions you might take when someone cuts you off and you're accepting of that. I know I've accidentally cut someone off in traffic, right? So I can forgive that person who cuts me off in traffic. From our actions, we get results, right? And from those results, that drives the same beliefs that we had before. Almost like that self-fulfilling prophecy. We see in the world out there what we expect to see. And there are a lot of ways that plays out. But we can think about this cycle and how it impacts who we are and how we're being in the world. Another way to think about it, you can see that layout there. And if you ask yourself what comes to mind, When I was growing up, money was, and people might say different things, scarce or whatever it is, whatever money was in your family might be how you still experience money today. Many of our beliefs were formed by the age of 7 just from all the experiences we were having and those inputs that we were taking in as our brain was forming all those connections, right? We're born with a whole bunch of neurons and not that many connections. And the experiences we have shape those connections, the neurons that fire together, wire together, and we start to form our beliefs. Our beliefs start to form our thoughts, and so forth, right? And we can think about this in a lot of different ways. For me, the easiest way to think about it is how children learn language. If I have a child who's brought up in another country, they're going to speak that language and have those behaviors because of the environment that they're in. Children that are brought up in different places and different families are going to have different beliefs based on all those experiences they've had. So, think about those beliefs that might need pruning or reshaping. And we can reshape those beliefs by driving a new thought, by considering a new thought. Because beliefs are decisions. Perhaps you had an experience that XYZ, for me, I'm thinking of money again, just because we've got this on the slide. So, I had an experience with money in my family, and so I have a belief, or had a belief, trying to change a belief, that no matter what happened in terms of things I did, something externally might come and take that money away. And I also have the belief that there's always going to be enough. So that leads to different actions than if I had a different belief. But we can change those beliefs, and we can make those changes because they are decisions. They're not easy to make, not easy to uncover those beliefs, but we can make new decisions. So that leads us to the question, are there any beliefs that you might want to change? This model here is a brief version of a model that my friend Tim Griffin shares, and that he uses to help people change their mindsets, change their beliefs, change their identity. The root version of that word identity is repeated beingness. And so those actions that we take repeatedly start to create our identity. If I exercise regularly, then I might consider myself fit or healthy. If I save my money and I don't spend much, then I might consider myself a shrewd investor or shrewd caregiver for my money, right? The actions that we take serve to reinforce the identity that we have. And when we know that we want to move into that new phase of being, then we know that we've got to create some clear action steps. We've got to take new patterns of behavior that are congruent with that identity that we want to repeatedly have in being, right? And so as we get more clear about it and we take actions that support it, and then just like with the power of habit change, we celebrate when we make the new efforts. Perhaps you've made some new resolutions. Today is actually Quitter's Day, the day that people give up on their resolutions. But perhaps you've made some new behavior changes and you're sticking with them. Celebrate those. Celebrate them every day. If you started some and you haven't stuck to them, just restart them. Start smaller. Previously, I was trying to do 11 burpees a day. I didn't always want to do 11 burpees, and you can list 1,000 excuses for why I didn't. So I changed it. I made it easier. I made a ceiling and I made a floor. Those are backwards, but you know what I mean, right? So I made a floor. The bottom line, I know I can do this on any given day. Right? I can do XYZ burpees, 3 for me. And I want to do 11 regularly. And if I do more, great. But I know that on any given day, unless something's broken, I can do 3 burpees. I can find the time and the energy to do it. And as I keep doing that, then that starts helping me bring more into focus that person that I want to be. Those habits take root, and then that becomes the new default pattern of behavior. That becomes the new autopilot. That becomes the new me, right? So there's Tim Griffin's model, the brief version, and I'm just going to share with you quickly a picture I took of part of the page of his model so you can see it a little more fully. But if you'd like a copy of it, I'm sure I can ask Tim to share that with us. And yeah, here's to becoming that best version of yourself, to being that best version of yourself in this good moment. Make it a great day. Thank you.